Thank you for joining me. I'm Christine Wansleben, and I am the chef and owner here at Mise Culinary Center. Mise this year I'm in my 21st year of offering a variety of one evening cooking classes for the general public. We do a lot of corporate team building events, and Seasonal Roots and I have been collaborating now for several years. I use their services for work, also for home. It's wonderful that it literally comes straight to my doorstep with their, fruit and vegetable fairies that, keep me posted and let me know when they're on their way. Um, I've never had a problem with any of their produce or meats or anything that I've gotten delivered. If I have, they immediately remedy the situation. It's just a wonderful convenience. It's very affordable. You find that you get the basket that suits your needs. If you're going on vacation, you can skip anytime. So I hope you all definitely try it out and use that code for their free membership. If certainly now is the time when things are just so expensive in the grocery stores to really buy what you need, and by using a service like Seasonal Roots, you really, really can do that. So we have some in the bundle. If you were able to, to purchase the bundle for class, we have, beautiful North Carolina shrimp today. We have 2 loaves of bread from Flower Garden, which has been around for years. We have the Great Plain yogurt from Mountain View Farm. Lately, I've been on a very plain yogurt kick, and I'll just sweeten it either with whatever fresh fruit is available, or a little bit of honey, or a little bit of maple syrup. I'm a New Englander at heart, so I definitely always have my Vermont or Massachusetts maple syrup, even though Virginia does have some good maple syrup too. 1 pound of farro. And we'll talk about that, the ancient grain. We have a little bit of chèvre, which is French for goat cheese, with that delicious raw honey and a gorgeous bunch of basil. In my just weekly package, I received amazing zucchini squash, cucumbers, beautiful tomatoes. And speaking of tomatoes, today launches Hot Tomato Summer, which is here in Richmond. I know it's in Virginia Beach. It may be in Alexandria as well. I know it's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's in multiple cities in kind of the tri-state area. It's sponsored by Duke's, which, if you are here in the South, Duke's is a local made mayonnaise. Sour is the parent company. They're here in Richmond. They make extracts and spices, but it's every summer for about 10 days, restaurants and cooking schools like myself and food venues just really promote the heck out of combining Dukes and tomatoes. So that is for the Dukes. And of course, Seasonal Roots, because local is always in season. So whether it's vegetables, you can get your local Dukes and put them all together on that bread with those amazing tomatoes that came in my bundle and some mayonnaise. It's perfect. But tonight, so again, that's another no-cook dish. So for these dishes, there's either little or no, well, they all have a little bit of cooking involved, but nothing that you need the oven for, which is fantastic. So the first one is the shrimp, corn, and tomato salad. Then we'll move on to the farro salad. Then we'll move on to our pesto and our sandwich, which I know in this heat, sometimes a really good sandwich is the perfect meal. Like, get me a sandwich and a potato salad, and I am good with that. So the sandwich, but we'll make that homemade pesto. And then for dessert, just a simple trifle. For this trifle, I did buy some Ukrop's pound cake, again, another local company, to put in with, I got some amazing, delicious peaches this week, and I still had some leftover blueberries from Agriberry Farm from last week's delivery. So A trifle is a great way to kind of use up fruit that may be starting to go, or just getting bruised. You can always put it in a dessert. But without further ado, again, thank you for joining us this evening. It's nice to be cooking in your own home where it's nice and cool and air conditioned. As I said, we'll start off with the shrimp, corn, and tomato salad. If any of you have any questions, feel free to unmute, whether it's about something that we're making tonight or something else that you've been, working on cooking. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to saute our shrimp. So we have this just beautiful, beautiful North Carolina shrimp. Again, another great thing about seasonal roots, they have shrimp, they have meats, they have prepared foods, obviously the breads and desserts, and they work with all local producers and purveyors, and they highlight all of those farmers. So again, if you don't get a chance to go to the farmer's market, this is a great option. So I have my shrimp. I thought it immediately once I got it this morning. My corn, I already grilled this morning, as I said, with all my vegetables. So I took off the husk and some of the silk, and then I just put it on the grill. It just gives it a little bit of a smoky flavor. You can absolutely use frozen corn from the bag, just thaw it out. That's it. You can just really just run it under warm water, and that'll thaw it right out right away. But use what's convenient for you. All right, so I have a little Creole seasoning that I like to use. If you want to use some Old Bay, use some Old Bay. If you just want to use a little salt and pepper, I tend not to add too much salt when I'm cooking shrimp because they are from the sea. So they naturally have a little bit of salinity to them. But otherwise, I'm just going to put a little bit of this Creole seasoning. Now, you always want to be careful when adding seasoning, which this feels like it needs to be broken up a little bit. When you're adding seasoning, especially anything that has salt. As we all know, salt is one of those ingredients that if you put in too much, you can't take it out. So just always, I like to kind of put some in my hand first, and especially with any of these seasoning blends, they often have quite a decent amount of salt in it. And shrimp tend to cook pretty fast. So I'm just tossing these in a little bit of this Creole seasoning. Just some pepper is nice too. But if you have an Old Bay or some local seafood markets, they have their own seasoning. I have one from a local sea market, and it's Chesapeake based. All right, so I just added a little bit of olive oil to my pan. Now, the thing with olive oil, how do you know when your oil is ready to saute? So olive oil, whether it's a commercial brand olive oil or a special brand of olive oil, olive oil is viscous. It has some thickness to it, almost like when you go to a wine tasting class and they have you swirl the wine and look at the legs. Olive oil has that same property. So when you go, you want to warm up your olive oil before you add your shrimp to the skillet. And so I added a couple tablespoons of olive oil to my pan. And I want to see that olive oil move around the pan like water. I want it to be really, really fluid. Then I know that my oil is hot. You may see a little shimmering. You may see a little bit of smoke, but it's light smoke. It's not a dark smoke. Then you know that your pan is ready. So we'll want to try and put these in a single layer if you can. And you want to hear that sizzle. By putting them in a single layer, it's just easy to flip them over. And just be careful, mine still have a little bit of water. Now, when getting yourself ready for these recipes, or really for any recipe, anytime you are cooking, you'll want to get your mise en place ready. So that means that you will want to not only look through your ingredients, but look through your procedure. That way you know what comes next and you're not caught sauteing something and realizing, oh my goodness, this is quickly burning. My lovely onions and garlic are quickly burning because I'm over here deshelling shrimp. And then now your onions and your garlic are burned because you didn't realize that it said saute for 2 minutes. So read through not only your ingredients, but your procedure. So you know, okay, I don't have time. I need to do these shrimp ahead of time. I don't have time to saute these now. So I've got this on a medium heat. You know, we're looking for that nice pink color. While that is going, I'm going to quickly show you how I like to cut the kernels off the cob of my corn. So I kept the stalk on a little bit, almost like a handle. I have a nubby dish towel here. Now you can certainly do this over a bowl. The purpose of the nubby dish towel is to catch the kernels so they don't fly all over the place and land on your floor. So as I'm doing this, you know, I'm watching my shrimp. Once they get nice and pink on one side, I'm just going to flip them over. But in the meantime, I've got a nice grip on my knife, and I'm just taking my corn and I'm cutting it off the cob. Pretty simple. Now, you can always give yourself a flat side and just cut it that way too. And just roll it up, you know, almost like it's cutting it into a square almost. Just giving yourself nice flat sides so it doesn't go away from you. I personally like just stretching it down. Now, again, you can do this in a bowl as well. But this is just a really easy way. And if you like things like, you know, corn chowder or corn soup, you know, save the cobs. They're full of flavor. When your shrimp, you know, are ready to release themselves, you know, don't try and pull them off of the skillet. Let them release themselves and just give them a flip so they can cook on the other side. You have all this lovely shrimp jus as well too. So while that other side is cooking, I'm just going to cut the rest of the corn off the cob. And it makes it easy to dump into the bowl. All right, so I've got my corn there. I've already chopped up my cherry tomatoes. I have my garlic, which actually now I need to put that into the saute too. So saute a little bit of that garlic and a little bit of red pepper flakes. If you want to, the red pepper flakes are certainly optional. Heat is another ingredient that if you put too much in, you can't take it away. So definitely keep that in mind. Just a few of these red pepper flakes can really add a punch. So in your saute pan, you have your shrimp. When my shrimp was almost done, I threw in my garlic and my red pepper flakes. So my corn is done. And the nice thing too, you can just, when it's in the dish towel, it's easy to dump into your large bowl. In the meantime, I have one pepper that I roasted. Actually, I have a couple colored peppers that I roasted. Now you can put in a raw pepper for this. And I did recently do a video on how to cut a pepper. And I may have an extra pepper here. Let me go check and see if I have a peppers. I can show you how to cut pepper. Well, I don't have an extra pepper, but I can kind of demo it with a jalapeno. So with a bell pepper, I like to cut off the top, around the top, and then I pull out the inside with all of the seeds. Kind of twist it and pull that out. I cut off the end so I have a nice flat surface. I'll cut that whole pepper in half, right down the middle, and then open it up like a book. I open it up, flesh side facing me, and I take my knife and I scrape across it to get any of the extra seeds or membrane. And then from there, I just cut it into strips and then I'll dice it up. So for this, I'll cut this into strips too. A friend of mine was growing some beautiful bell peppers, so I roasted some of those. The zucchini that I got this morning from Seasonal Roots, it almost looked like a baseball bat. It's huge. All right, so I have my chopped pepper here. And please, feel free to interrupt if I am going too fast. Feel free to ask me to show you something again. I'm happy to do that. All right, so to put our salad together, we do need a little bit of a vinaigrette. So this vinaigrette is very straightforward. You have a little lime juice, a little olive oil. You have some vinegar, so white wine vinegar. If you only have red wine vinegar, if you have apple cider vinegar, those are all fine and will be delicious. I have some champagne vinegar that I used. You just don't want anything, because the shrimp is light, you don't want anything too dark like a balsamic. That's a completely different taste. But just, a plain white vinegar is fine too. So we have a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of, I did add a pinch of chipotle powder in mine, but again, that's more heat. You certainly don't have to do that. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and ground pepper. And my ground pepper have been my grinder has been giving me like super big pieces of pepper, which nobody likes that in cheese. All right, a little bit of salt. Then we put the whole thing together and you can keep it in your refrigerator. Now, if you're gonna make this ahead of time, earlier in the day, you may want to hold off on the vinaigrette and toss it with the vinaigrette maybe an hour or so before serving, and then bring it to room temperature. You just don't want the acid to cook your shrimp even more and make it really tough. So we're going to add our shrimp. So what I'm going to do is just, and if I have a little bit of the oil, a little bit of the juice, that's fine too. Now again, my shrimp are a little warm. You can certainly do this, as I keep saying, ahead of time, and just let them come to room temperature before you add the other ingredients. But since this will probably be part of my family's dinner this evening, it will all be okay. Then we'll go ahead, add your peppers. It's super colorful too. Add your tomatoes. Now, if you don't have cherry tomatoes, but you have a couple of the large beefsteak tomatoes or some Roma tomatoes, cut those into quarters and remove the inside seeds. Just remove kind of the juice in the seeds. You can even pop it out with a spoon and then dice up those tomatoes. If you're not a tomato person, again, you can add more zucchini. Some grilled zucchini is great. I have these chopped herbs, so I have some fresh parsley and I have some fresh dill. Now, if you don't have the fresh herbs, if you don't have fresh parsley or fresh dill, but you only have dried parsley, add that dried parsley either to the vinaigrette or in with the shrimp when you're sauteing the shrimp. And the reason why I say that is because dry herbs need to be in some type of liquid to bloom. Otherwise, it tastes like paper. You're not doing your dish any service at all. So if ever you've had a deviled egg with a dried chives on top, there's no flavor. You just keep chewing it again like it's a piece of paper. So when you're using dried herbs, and this recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley. If you are using dried, use half of that amount because it is dried and concentrated. So you would only need 1 tablespoon. But I would probably put that into the vinaigrette so that it has a little bit of liquid to bloom and open up a little bit. All right, so I have some herbs. I have the corn, which I do have to break up a little bit with my fork. That's nice and sweet. And I think corn is something in seasonal roots that you could always switch out. So if there are items in your bundle, say you do the family bundle, and you said, okay, my family is over zucchini. I'd like to swap it out. You can swap it out for other things that are available. Fresh eggs. I often get the fresh eggs. All right, now I'm just going to give it a little bit of the vinaigrette. Toss it. I might have to taste it. It's quality control. So you are allowed, if you're going to make it, you can taste it. But to get a shrimp, which are so plump and juicy, shrimp, corn, and a little bit of, that is so good. And I think I have extra corn in my towel. And that Creole seasoning that has a little bit of a kick. That's delicious. And those shrimp are so juicy. Mm-mm-mm. So if you're going to have this tonight, you can leave it out, or you can just cover it and put it in the fridge to put a little bit of a chill on it. But man, that's delicious. That's really good. All right, I'll give everybody a couple of minutes. Again, I apologize if I go a little too fast. The next dish that we're going to work on is the farro salad. Farro is one of those ancient grains. It's got a little bit of a chew to it and a nutty texture. I will be honest. I saw a recipe this morning. I followed the New York Times cooking station or app, and they had an ad this morning for what they said the best farro salad ever. So I was like, ooh, how ironic, that we are making a farro salad. So I was curious, and I followed their recipe to make the farro. So what they did was that you took the farro, you took 1 cup of 1 cup of farro, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and 2 cups of water and some bay leaves. I actually put some herbs de Provence in there. And you cooked it that way. Now it cooked beautifully. It does take a little bit of time. This took about a half an hour. But I'm not sure if I like it. It's very, cooking in vinegar makes it's not bad. I thought I'd try it. If you want a vinegary taste already to your grain, it definitely, the whole kitchen I kept sneezing because it smelled like vinegar, and it does have some tang to it, but I think I should have stuck to my own recipe. For that, it's just not, it was okay. I didn't think it was the best, especially if you're already adding a vinaigrette to that. So for this dish, we have this lovely Marsh Hen Mill, and they have so many wonderful products. Marsh Hen Mill, I've used some of their other corn flour, we've used their rice, we've used their grains in our classes. Um, it's just a nice alternative grain rather than rice or pasta or something like that. So this one also has some grilled cherry tomatoes, which I'm going to do as we talk about this dish. So I have this tiny little Lodge um, cast iron brown pan, which is it's perfect for today's demo. With these, I would maybe even do these in the oven. It's kind of tricky to skewer cherry tomatoes and then put them on your grill unless you have a veggie basket. You just don't want them to go through the grates. So I have a whole bunch of colors of cherry tomatoes. As I said, I've already grilled all of my vegetables. This one does have a white balsamic vinaigrette to it, which I love a ball jar vinaigrette. You put everything in a mason jar, any type of glass container that you may have, you shake it up, you use what you need, you put the rest in the fridge. It is great, especially if you have those. We use at home, we use a lot of the mason jars as just regular everyday glasses. So if you have empty jelly jars, save them because again, they're great for one, they're great for transportation. So if you're taking something to somebody's home, again, any liquid, it's great for transportation, great for cocktails too. But for vinaigrettes, it's really, really wonderful. So I've got my grill pan here. I'm actually going to spray that with a little bit of olive oil. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grill my cherry tomatoes until they burst a little bit. So while that's happening, and you want them just the skins to kind of burst a little bit. So I just have it on this cast iron pan. Now you could buy roasted tomatoes, you could use sun-dried tomatoes. You know, the key to a lot of this is, you know, cooking doesn't have to be complicated to be flavorful. You know, we have this great, you know, vinaigrette. Oh, we need some chickpeas. So you can add chickpeas, you can add cannellini beans, whatever you'd like. I did not have my mise en place ready. So while those are, and I love chickpeas. I went over to another chef friend house yesterday and she has a little air fryer and she just did some roasted chickpeas in the air fryer. They were so good. So, so good. So we'll just rinse those off. Already I can smell my tomatoes. We just want a little burst. But if you go to some of the bigger grocery stores, they often have an olive bar. And at the olive bar, they have not sun-dried tomatoes, they have roasted tomatoes, which is another delicious dish to do, preferably in the summer in the evening. But if you have a lot of tomatoes, just, you know, cut them up. If they're cherry tomatoes or little grape tomatoes, keep them whole. Add some fresh herbs, add a whole bunch of olive oil, and just put them in a low oven, maybe 300, 350, and just let them roast. Just let them get really jammy. All right, so I've got my chickpeas. While my beans are going, I'm just going to chop up some of my veggies. And you'll be able to hear, of course I see the smoke too. You'll be able to hear, I have a little bit of grill marks, but you can kind of hear them start to burst a little bit. So I have zucchini, I have eggplant, I have summer squash, I have peppers. Grill your favorite veggies. You could put broccoli rabe on there. Asparagus would be delicious. Again, more, my friend had this beautiful red and green peppers, and we're just going to dice them up. So, a little knife tutorial. When you're chopping up your knife, when you're holding your knife, I like to put my thumb and my forefinger at the base of the blade, and then I take my 3 fingers and give the handle a hug. Try not to stick your pointer finger out over the top of the blade. You're putting a lot of stress on your hand and up through your arm. And if you do a lot of computer work already, we don't need to talk about carpal tunnel. So just give it a nice grip. Try not to put your finger on the top there. And when you're cutting, tuck in that thumb, because you often just unconsciously keep your thumb out when you're holding things. My first restaurant job in New York City, I almost lobbed off the top of my thumb. So since then, I keep tucking it in. So just tuck it in, put your hand in a claw. And what I like to do is I cut up my vegetables into strips. I line them up, I turn them, and then I just keep cutting. It's a salad, so you want bite-sized ingredients. You don't want super, super big chunks. Think about what you want to put on your fork or on your spoon. And these we're just going to toss right in. And I like to use, when I'm seasoning, I like to use a kosher salt, something that has kosher or sea salt, something that has good sized granules. Because I find when you have those nice sized granules, you're more apt to use less salt than the table salt. Table salt comes out very fast. It has iodine and it kind of tastes a little bit like iodine. So, keep those in mind when you are cooking. All right, I have my cooked farro here. I'm going to add in these vegetables. I'm going to go ahead and add in my chickpeas that I rinsed. And this is a great salad too, that you can certainly store in a jar. So if you're going to the beach and you don't want to put it in a plastic container. This, I might grab a little bit of basil as well and add some fresh basil to it. All right, my tomatoes are almost done. In the meantime, I have lots of veggies in here. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to cut up some of the bunch of basil that was in the bundle. It's just gorgeous. So we have this, I just gave it a quick rinse, but this bunch is just, this could be a wedding bouquet. It's just so pretty. So I'm just going to take a few leaves and cut those up to put in my salad, my farro salad. In the meantime, we can go ahead and get those ingredients for our dressing. Put that aside. I've shut off my tomatoes because they have started to burst. And these tomatoes you can put in whole. Definitely put in whole because the skin is kind of burst a little bit. They have those nice char marks. All right, so to chiffonade some basil. Chiffonade is a French term that means ribbon. So if you want to make a really nice kind of ribbons of basil in your salad, what you can do is take those basil leaves and stack them up one on top of each other. So stack them up, then take those leaves and roll them really tight away from you. Roll them lengthwise so you have a long roll and it's nice and tight. Then take your knife, again, a nice grip on your handle, curl those fingers, tuck that thumb in, and just give them really nice thin slices. And then you get these beautiful, once you unroll it, you get these beautiful basil ribbons. I'm going to toss that in. So this is a nice soft herb if you're growing something like basil or thyme or even more fresh parsley. That is great too. So right now I have my farro, I have my chickpeas, I have my veggies. I'll let this cool just slightly. So I've got some nice grill marks on there. A couple of them have started to burst, so I don't want to grab it too tightly with the tongs. So our salad dressing. I put everything in the jar. So we have some olive oil. We have some white balsamic vinegar, which you can find at the grocery store with all your other balsamic vinegars. But again, you can use a champagne vinegar. You can use a white wine vinegar. This one, you can certainly use a red wine vinegar if you want. We have a little bit of lemon juice in there. I have finely chopped garlic. Now, if you like to use the garlic press, you can certainly use that for this. Minced means just finely chopped up. Or if you have a microplane zester, another great use is to take your garlic and grate it. It helps with the garlic not being so raw because it's so thin in there. So you can just take your zester and grate your garlic a little bit, and that will help cut that really sharpness of the garlic. So we have that. I'm going to put in a little bit of salt. And I put a few cracks of pepper. I have my Dijon mustard. Now, if you have a stone ground mustard, that's fine. I probably would not use a yellow mustard, but your Dijon mustard is your emulsifier. That's what's going to keep it together. So what you do, again, super simple. I have my olive oil, my vinegar, my lemon juice, my Dijon mustard. And as you can see, we don't need a whole lot to dress this salad, but you just give it a good shake. Like show your frustration of this heat wave and just give it a really good shake. And you'll see that it will emulsify. So before I add this to my salad, I'm going to take my tomatoes off the skewer. Again, they're just slightly warm. A couple of them have burst a little bit, which are beautiful. Now I'm going to add this whole jar to my salad because it's really not a lot. It's about 5 tablespoons of liquid. And just give it a nice toss. And you can certainly taste it, but taste it twice. Taste it when you first add the dressing. Let it sit. Let some of that vinaigrette absorb into your vegetables and your farro. Yeah, the Marsh Hen Mills has all sorts of really wonderful grains and flours. And you can go onto their Instagram page or their website and see all the things that they have. And they have great recipes too. And this salad dressing is almost creamy because you have the Dijon in there. That's good. Although I might add a little bit of extra black pepper in mine. You have a lot of the acidity. And if you find that this is a little bit too acidic for you, you can take a little bit of that honey that was in the bundle, just maybe not even a teaspoon. You could always add it to vinaigrette or whatever vinaigrette may still be left in the jar, but just a little bit of sweetness sometimes can cut that acid. Also, now is a good time when if you're making the dessert with me, you'll want to make sure that your heavy cream is chilled, that your yogurt is chilled, and I also suggest chilling your bowl. Whatever you're going to whip it in, chill your bowl. Whenever you're making fresh whipped cream, help it stabilize by chilling your bowl. So literally put it in an empty bowl in the freezer. Or refrigerator, but freezer is always good. You want that nice cold bowl. All right, this deserves a really pretty plate too. Because you eat with your eyes, so let's do this. And this will last for a while in your fridge. Again, it's a great potluck dish. It's a great beach or picnic dish because it doesn't have any dairy in it. So you don't have to, you can pack it in a jar or in a glass container. So you can really do, oops, there we go. Oh, that looks so nice. Again, the colors, look at all the vegetables. It's a great way to use up your vegetables in sort of a different way. And all of those seasonal vegetables. All right. Our next dish, and again, I'll take a few moments to clean up my station and let everybody finish up with theirs. The next one will be the sandwich. I might actually see if this bread will fit onto the pan. I might actually try to. I mean, this smells so good. I'm just going to let it sit on this grill pan for a minute. Might turn on low. So someone asked me earlier about this sandwich and is it supposed to be a cold sandwich or a hot sandwich? Ideally, you probably don't want it hot because we don't want to melt the goat cheese. We want to make sure that the goat cheese stays on our bread as well as the pesto. But again, I'm using the grilled vegetables. I've let them kind of sit at room temperature. I'm just going to lightly toast my bread. This sandwich is really meant to be eaten cold or room temperature. So you don't have to worry about it being hot. So it's not like a hot sub sandwich. And I'm excited about the goat cheese too. So together we'll go ahead and we'll make this pesto. Pesto, you can, again, it's another great way to use up your herbs. If you have a lot of parsley, you can make a chimichurri, which, you don't necessarily need a food processor for, but it uses up all your parsley. Basil is coming out in abundance. This one, we're combining it. I am making this because my daughter is nut free. I am making this without nuts. Pine nuts are expensive. So if you don't have pine nuts, you can really use, you can use walnuts. I have used almonds before as well, or you can just omit the nuts altogether. And you don't need a big food processor. And if you don't have a food processor, you can just make it by chopping all of these herbs up small. So we have here for our pesto, we'll want to, here I've done what I try and tell people not to do. I've crowded my cutting board. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of space for things. We'll kind of move some of these aside. So we'll want to roughly chop up. I will take some of these leaves off of the basil. We have these beautiful stems here too. And a great way to store basil in your, if you store them in your, you can store them outside of your refrigerator, just in a, like a glass jar or a drinking jar or a mug with some water. Keep it on the windowsill. The problem with putting it in the refrigerator is that sometimes it gets condensation, especially with opening and closing your refrigerator door. So there's this condensation, and you just don't want it to go bad. You paid for beautiful herbs. But that's, the nice thing about here in Richmond is that we have farmers markets, throughout the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. You can go to a farmer's market and get fresh herbs when you need them. Or seasonal roots will deliver it right to your door if you cannot get there. So I just have some basil that I gave a quick rinse to because it is straight from the farm. We may have some travelers in our basil that we don't necessarily want in our pesto. But then it's not from the grocery store in a little container that won't last you very long. Oh, that sounds so good. So I'm just going to roughly chop this, especially when you put something in a food processor. You want to give it a rough chop, otherwise it just keeps spinning around in these whole pieces, and we don't want that. You can cut them up too if you have kitchen shears. You can certainly cut them up. All right. So I have my Parmesan cheese. Now again, this can be dairy free if you do not want to put Parmesan in there. My parsley. Now this is Italian, flat leaf Italian parsley. Some from my garden as well. What you don't want to use is the curly parsley. If you did buy the curly parsley, just make sure you rinse it well. The curly parsley definitely tends to have a little bit more grit to it. So you want to make sure that you rinse that well. You can swish it upside down in some water and let that dirt fall to the bottom, and then just wrap it in a damp paper towel. Would be perfect. So I have the herbs and the Parmesan. I also want to make sure I add a little lemon zest and juice, but we'll do that a little bit later on. So I am going to turn on my food processor. I'm going to take out the center piece so that I can pour my olive oil down the spout. So I just pulsed it a little bit. Now I'm going to put it on low so you will hear my food processor. And then I'm going to slowly pour in my olive oil. I don't have a measurement. I like to add it in. I like to add in my olive oil in a slow, steady stream until a paste forms. I'm not done, but I'll add it in there until it looks pasty, I guess is the term. I am going to scrape down the sides. Now just be careful. Obviously, there is a blade in there, so be careful when you're scraping down the sides. I'm going to give it a couple more. All right, now I'm going to add the lemon zest. Always zest before you juice. That may sound silly, but it's really difficult to try and zest a citrus, a lemon, a lime, a grapefruit after you've already squeezed all the juice out because it's no longer solid. It's just mushy. So zest your lemon. Oh, it smells so nice. So this will have a little bit of, kick to it, a little bit of zest to it. It'll be but this brightens up all of those herbs. I'm going to get a little bit of water just so that it doesn't get, so that it isn't too tight. And I only need the juice of about half of this lemon. And this is probably a smaller lemon. All right, cut this. I'm going to squeeze this juice into a cup just in case there are any seeds. You can always do it through your hands, or if you have a little strainer handy. There we go. This just has a couple of seeds. I am going to add a little bit of water as well. All right, now let's run this again. Okay. I also added a little bit of chili flakes in there, which you can certainly do after. So I'm going to scrape the side. It looks great. I'm going to take out the blade. Always make sure you take out the blade before you take out anything inside. One, you don't want to hurt yourself, and you don't want to cut up your spatula either. This looks good. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to give it a taste, and then I will adjust it for seasoning. So if you want a little bit more salt, if you want a little bit of more chili flakes. Mine definitely needs some salt. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more lemon juice too. And you can just store whatever extra you have in a container in your refrigerator. Great to add in, obviously, to pasta. It's wonderful to toss in even with some rice. If you wanted some, pesto rice, you can stuff chicken with it. It's really, really just very versatile. All right, so I think it's where I want it. Yeah. Mine's not super processed, which I like. I have a little bit of texture. So now I have the plain goat cheese, the chev, which is from Whispering Springs Farm, and it has a picture of a very cute goat on there. I haven't yet done goat yoga. Has anyone here done goat yoga? I did see something the other morning about chicken yoga. They have chickens walking around wearing little diapers while you do yoga. I love chickens, but that's not for me. All right. So I have it is nice and toasty. I've opened up my bread. And now we're just going to assemble the sandwich. And I'll put that on a nice plate too. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of goat cheese. Again, you'll want to put that goat cheese spread on the bread. Otherwise, trying to spread that on top of grilled vegetables, it'll just slide right off. So consider this your condiment, your goat cheese. It doesn't have to be super thick. And this will just give you, let's see how this is. And it's so light. Mmm. Ooh, it's so fluffy. That is good. Then I'm going to, now you can layer your vegetables. Put whatever vegetables you want, add some sliced tomato, add arugula if you wanted to as well. You could even make an arugula pesto, but I'm just going to, and be mindful when you're adding your vegetables because one, you don't want it so thick that you can't take a bite out of it. Um, but you want a good mixture. I had grilled eggplant that I got in last week's um, bundle. And it's nice too, if you forget to put out your insulated bag, all your ingredients, everything that you ordered is in a nice box, a seasonal roots box. They let you know when you're next on the list. They let you know when it's been delivered, which is great. So if you need to, you can always ask your neighbor, hey, can you, bring this in for me? Or you just know when it's coming. All right, so I did add a little bit more goat cheese on the top layer. Now I'm going to take the pesto and just gently put it on top of the vegetables. And I might spread a little onto the goat cheese as well. Get that in there. Now, of course, if you're not eating this evening, you certainly don't have to make this. But if you have all the parts, it makes it so simple to put together. Top it. Oh, and this bread can this roll, you can definitely feed 2 people. It's a beautiful, crunchy on the outside and nice and fluffy on the inside. But look at that. That looks so delicious. I mean, the layers. This may not be. Just look at that. The layers of the vegetables. Now, because we made this pesto, well, because it is pesto, this may not be the sandwich if you're going on a romantic picnic, because inevitably the pesto will get in your teeth. So it may not be something you want to do like on a first date, but it will be a delicious sandwich. This would be great to take to Maymont or any of those places. Any parks. And the summer is just full of so much produce. Take advantage of it. All right, so that's the sandwich. Let me put this stuff aside since I no longer need all of my grilled vegetables.
I do have a question. How long does that cheese last?
The goat cheese?
Yes.
The goat cheese in your refrigerator, because it comes in a sealable container, I would say probably a couple of weeks. It's not a lot, so you'll find that you'll probably go through it really fast. But I would say I don't know if there's anyone on here from Seasonal Roots, but I would say maybe a week and a half or so.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Just make sure whatever cheese you have, that it's sealed. Just make sure it's sealed tight so no air can get in. That's where the mold and the bacteria start, is when it just has too much air and condensation starts. So that's something we want to keep in mind. All right, any other questions before we get to the grand finale of our trifle? Where's all my stuff? Trifle. And I have to say, I do like these semi-homemade desserts, especially in the summertime. So I will go get out my mixer. So I just have a small little dish. Again, it's just, if I make it bigger, I'm going to eat more of it. So I bought some of Crop's lemon pound cake. Again, we're talking local. I know Seasonal Roots does have some delicious snacks and snack cakes from 2.5 Irishmen. So you can really use whatever. You can use an angel food cake. You could use lady fingers, or like the soft sponge, lady fingers. You could use cookies, like amaretti cookies, if you wanted to. So you really can do a lot of stuff. For the fruit, I have, where's the fruit? I have some blueberries and some peaches, because I did get some nice peaches this morning. And a couple of them were ripe enough that I could cut up. So I just have a mixture of peaches and yellow peaches and blueberries, which are from Agriberry Farm, which also was in the box. I have my pound cake cut up. Now, if you really wanted to go the extra step and you are using pound cake or angel food cake, you can actually grill that. I have toasted or grilled pound cake before. If you put a little bit of like a simple syrup on top, or brush them with a little bit of honey, especially things like pound cake. Angel food cake probably doesn't need anything on it. Angel food cake will smell like toasted marshmallow because it has so much egg whites in the angel food cake. But you could always toast it, like put it in your toaster and get it a little bit caramelized for your trifle, but you don't have to. I just cut mine into slices and then cut it into cubes. I did grab a couple of nasturtiums from my garden that will make nice decorations for the top. So a trifle is just a layered dessert. We have this I did add a little bit of this honey to my vegetables. What I find the easiest way to cut a peach is I find where that little seam is, and I take my knife and I just cut all the way around the pit. And then I take my peach and I twist it in each side in opposite directions. Like that. Comes right out. Easy. The pit pops right out. Now, if it's really hard to twist, then most likely your peach is not ripe. And so you're almost, then you end up having to cut it off of the pit. And it's just not right. So that's really not what you want. You want something that's nice and ripe and juicy. You could always do this with, you could certainly do this with frozen fruit if you wanted to, and just thaw out the frozen fruit. But again, there are so many great berries out there. You could even do this with banana. But I'm going to add these. Actually, I'm just going to add a little bit there. This I'll put aside here. And now I'm going to go get my yogurt and my heavy cream, and we're just going to give it a little bit of a whip too. But those are the things. Again, remember, I've been chilling. I just kept my yogurt and my heavy cream in the refrigerator, and I chilled a bowl. If you have a hand mixer, now's the time to get it out. So for this dish, I'm going to use my hand mixer. I love my handy hand mixer. It's small, it's compact, doesn't take up too much space. Yes, I love my stand mixer, but sometimes it's just a beast. And I have a little bit of vanilla extract. You don't have to use vanilla, you can just use some of the honey if you wanted to. Now for this, I'm only using half of the amount, just because I'm just making a smaller trifle. And a trifle, you want to make it in, you can make it in a clear trifle dish so that people can see the layers. Again, it's something else that you can put in a ball jar if you're going somewhere. You can absolutely make those in ball jars or in your glasses, in say rocks glasses. Excuse me. In rocks glasses and just make the layers. It just makes it really nice. So I'm going to combine my heavy cream. Now, if you are short on time, you can certainly buy Cool Whip or a non-dairy whip topping and just fold the yogurt into that if you didn't want to whip it up. So you could certainly fold it in if you wanted, if you needed to cut some time. So this just has our heavy cream, a little bit of raw honey, so about a tablespoon. And this one is from Falling Bark Farm. They are in, where are they? Berryville, Virginia. Yeah. A little bit of vanilla. I like to use the cap. And then our yogurt. This is lovely Mountain View Farm yogurt. Again, you get all of those good probiotics. So this is a 16-ounce or 2-cup container. I'm only going to use 1 cup of this. There we go. Perfect. And it's so good plain. Mm. Now, if you wanted to put a little kick into your berries or your peaches, you could always add a little bit, like a half a tablespoon of liqueur. So if you were doing raspberries, you could add some Chambord. With peaches, you could do a peach liqueur or even a Cointreau, which is orange, if you wanted to. All right, now I'm going to whip this up. Get one of my spoons. And I'm just gonna whip this up until soft peaks forward. Now, also another tip, let me get some of my other utensils out of here. Another tip, if you are doing this by yourself and you don't have a bowl that has any type of bottom that keeps it from moving all over the place, take a side towel, and I just wrapped it up almost like a collar, and then you can rest your bowl on the collar and it will help keep it a little bit stable. But tonight I can use one hand to hold it and one hand to let it go. So we're just going to do this until soft peaks. So almost like a soft serve ice cream form. All right, so I've got a nice thick yogurt and whipped cream, and it should be just slightly sweetened. Yeah. Now you can always add more honey. If you want it a little bit sweeter, I know my pound cake is pretty sweet, so I like it more creamy and less sweet. So now what you can do is go ahead, add a little bit of that cream. And again, that will get into and it'll drip down in between. And then you just continue on with the layers. So I've got that, I've got my fruit. So I'm gonna add in, and make sure you get a nice even distribution. You know, you don't wanna have it like when you make a dessert, say in a 9 by 13, and the very edge doesn't have any of the filling. All right, I've done that. Now I'm going to add some more pound cake. You could even do this with nice slices of, say, a cinnamon raisin bread. Press it down a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to add some more of the cream. And don't be shy with the yogurt because you do want it to, drip down the sides, get in between those pieces of pound cake or angel food cake. And then top it with more fruit. Yeah, if you wanted to make, dessert for a couple of people for the say you're having a dinner party, you're having 4 people or 6 people over, this you can easily have all the parts made and then put them together and chill them for a little bit. Everyone gets their own individual fresh fruit, fresh yogurt trifle. And then I have these beautiful nasturtiums, which are edible flowers that I grow. They're also great for deterring a lot of pests. And I'm just gonna put those on top. You could add some crumble cookie to the top if you wanted to, or some dried strawberries or candied nuts. That would be really nice too. Or just a sprig of mint. I've wanted to use these nasturtiums for something. I'm so glad I could use it tonight. They're just so pretty. They're always in very, very bright colors. And they have almost a little bit of a minty taste. But they're like marigolds. You can eat those too. All right. Oh, another safety tip: unplug your hand mixer before you eject your attachments, because often what I have found is that the on and off switch and the eject button are right next to each other or the same button. You don't want to accidentally turn it on when you're trying to take it off. So unplug, and then you're safe. You're safe with that. So to recap, let's make this all look pretty. Stuff out of the way. So we'll start with our dessert first because we should always start with dessert first. We have our summer fruit trifle with yogurt and honey, pound cake or angel food cake, whatever you'd like. We have our fresh pesto grilled vegetable sandwich with goat cheese on these beautiful flower garden buns. Do that. Then we have our shrimp salad with fresh corn, fresh tomatoes, the North Carolina shrimp. They're so much better than the shrimp that you buy at the grocery store, which is fine. I always have a bag of that in my freezer. But these North Carolina shrimp are so juicy. So we have that dish there. We'll try and raise it up a little bit so we can see it. And then we have our farro salad. This has our farro from Marsh Hen Mills, all of our more grilled vegetables. We charred our cherry tomatoes. We have some chickpeas in there. You could always add cucumber in there if you wanted to as well. And those are all of our summer dishes, which look so delicious. Now let's see if we can zoom in on some of those. Everything just, and we did all of those things in less than 2 hours. So the key to a lot of this, obviously, is your prep work, right? Is getting some of those things chopped, grilled, sauteed, done ahead of time. Because these are cool, hot weather, cool salads, a lot of these things you can get done ahead of time and then just marry them when you need to. So, with these dishes that have vinaigrettes, with the shrimp and with the farro salad, if you're taking this dish to somebody's house, make that ball jar vinaigrette and toss it when you get there. Some things you just don't want it to soak up all of that flavor, all of that vinaigrette before people get a chance to eat it. It just gets very, very briny and very acidic. The shrimp are lovely. Now you could do the same salad with bay scallops if you'd like to use, scallops. You could even do it with calamari, with squid, if you like that. But this is just a really delicious dish. And again, the sandwich. Now, if you wanted to, add a little protein to the sandwich, you could always add some nice prosciutto to the grilled vegetable sandwich if you'd like to. But again, using up the bounty of vegetables that are out in the summer, this is just a great way to use up grilled vegetables. You have that grain salad, and then of course the dessert. It's so pretty. You can use strawberries are kind of on the way out now here, but blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and of course the peaches. Mix up the white and the golden peaches. We have our Georgia peaches, and the yogurt. It's just a really nice dish altogether. Now, does anyone have any other questions? These shrimp are so good. Questions, concerns? I certainly encourage you to try seasonal roots if it's in your area. Try it out. You have a free membership. It doesn't hurt. See if it's something you like, and hopefully it is. They're great people to work with, and if you get a chance, check out some of the restaurants and food establishments that are doing the Duke's Hot Tomato Summer. Bakeries are making tomato pies. Our Baltic Bagel Company, they have like tomato bagels that they're doing, bacon, lettuce, tomato, and Dukes on there. So there's a lot of fun things happening, over the next 10 days or so. But if you don't have any questions, enjoy your meal on this again, another blazing day. So enjoy your meal. Feel free to reach out to, either of us if you have any questions. And this video should be uploaded probably in the next week or so. But stay cool, everybody.